Hello, and welcome back to another epic episode of Mac Movie Review, that part of the channel where I sometimes, occasionally, talk about movies. In today's episode, I'm going to be ranking the filmography of one of my favorite directors of all time, one of the most beloved directors of all time, Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson, of course, has a plethora of fantastic films under his belt, and today I'm only going to be talking about all of them. Cook up a mug of tea or coffee or some other pleasant liquid, and let's be chill. Let's be chill and let's go over the best Wes Anderson films that are not the Netflix short films. I already ranked those in a separate video, which is linked in the description. Enjoy that one if you will. Let's start things off with the very worst Wes Anderson film. It's not even close. I was legitimately kind of pissed off as I walked out of Asteroid City. The entire exercise, the entire film just feels very much like Wes Anderson kind of pleasuring himself through his own film. Like, it's just all of the Wes Anderson isms, and people said the same thing about French Dispatch, but to an extent where it's honestly kind of annoying, and it doesn't really feel like it has any life in it. The film feels very wooden. I think that's the best word to describe this film. It just feels, and the color palette too, it just feels very wooden. There's one moment of life, the, very already iconic, best scene of the movie with Margot Robbie. Everybody talks about that scene. Legitimately really good scene. Whole movie? Nah. It feels kind of gross watching this movie, and especially even as a big Wes Anderson fan, it feels like he almost lost the sauce with this most recent film. The second worst Wes Anderson film, in my humble opinion, is absolutely The French Dispatch. This was a very polarizing one. A lot of people said, wow, this is the best thing he's ever made. This is top 3 Wes. This is incredible. I love every minute of this. It's so engaging. It's so beautiful. Best set design. Amazing cast. I love this so much. Amazing cinematography. Amazing vibes. And the other half said, wow, this thing is lifeless. I walked away feeling that this was kind of lifeless. I believe that all Wes Anderson movies are about relationships. Some type of relationship. Not necessarily romantic. Could be a familial relationship. It could be a relationship between friends. A friendship. But this one doesn't feel like that. It just feels like 3 disassociated stories. The only time in this movie where I felt anything was the very end when everything kind of comes together. That was cool. That was cool looking back and reflecting on the stories, but it was also the only moment where I felt anything watching this film. It just felt emotionless. I'm sorry. On to the next one. Wes Anderson's first film, Bottle Rocket, is a very pleasant surprise. I really went into this expecting it to be kind of lame, because it gets pretty negative reviews by most people, with people really saying the best that it is just a good and fun movie. It's a very fun movie. It's a very good movie. It's very solid. From this entry onward on this list, these movies are great. Or not great. They're good. They're really good. They're really enjoyable. I really do enjoy Bottle Rocket and Onward. The only 2 I don't really enjoy were French Dispatch and Asteroid City. It's a fun movie. Doesn't have a lot to offer. It is a little bit raw. It's very rough around the edges. It feels like the least Wes Anderson movie out of all of his movies. It really has the least amount of his signature symmetrical style, but it is still a very enjoyable movie. It's a good one. I don't really know how to vocalize or justify Darjeeling Limited's placement on this list. It feels like the Wes Anderson movie I am the least familiar with. I really couldn't tell you much about the movie other than that it has 3 really strong performances, specifically by Adrien Brody. He really steals the show in this one. And it is the first... I shouldn't say that. It really feels like a Wes Anderson movie. I was going to say it's the first Wes Anderson movie that really feels like a Wes Anderson movie. That's not even true. I don't know where that was coming from. It's a good movie. It has some really strong moments. The relationship between the brothers is strong at points. It's got some strong emotional moments. I think what is holding this one back for me is just kind of a lack of memorability. It's not the most memorable. It's just not the most I guess the plot is not the most strong, the characters are not the strongest, even though I do like the brotherly bond and the brotherly focus of the film. It's a good one. It's not necessarily a great one. The next installment on this list is Moonrise Kingdom. I think this is technically a very impressive film. It's a very enjoyable film, especially with a really great Bruce Willis performance. Honestly, my favorite thing about the movie. I love the whole cast. It's sweet. It just goes into some weird territory involving children that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Not a lot of people find that this is an issue with the film. I would say you probably just have to watch it yourself and see what your take is on it, because it doesn't bother many people, but to me it felt like it went a little bit too far in terms of content. Pretty ironic, being that this is one of the only PG-13 Wes Anderson movies. I mean, he has two other ones, Isle of Dogs and, of course, Asteroid City. But I just think that the sexual content in this film is a little bit weird. The romantic content, other people find it sweet, find it wholesome. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way, but it's this high on the list because I think it is genuinely just a better film than the other films that I've talked about thus far. It's good, it's just not one that I really want to watch again. My next entry on this list is far too low for most people. I'll be completely honest. This next entry, it's the Royal Tenenbaums. I have it this low. I'm a psychopath. This one is a film that made me feel pretty uncomfy at points. It's a very uncomfortable family drama film about a dysfunctional, wealthy family. It's very weird. It's extremely Wes Anderson. A lot of people call this the most Wes Anderson movie. I would give that title to French Dispatch, even though I don't like French Dispatch. But this is a good film. It's a good one. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. It doesn't hit me in any sort of personal way. I would say that's probably why it's this low on the list. I don't find the film to be particularly enjoyable, and I don't find myself particularly resonating with the film, but it is a good movie. Isle of Dogs is absolutely gorgeous. One of the best looking movies ever made. One of the best stop motion movies ever made. It's just beautiful. Now, the story in this movie does not do much for a lot of people. This was universally liked by audiences and by critics. Everybody thought this movie was really good. But for most people, when they are ranking Wes Anderson movies, when they talk about this film in the context of his whole filmography, they're like, this one just gives you the least. The story has the least to offer, the least to latch onto. You could say that. I'm not a dog lover, but I love this movie. I think it's so beautiful, and I think the story is honestly really great. I think the cast is really great. I think the directing is really great. It's just a cool movie. It's just a really, really cool piece of art. And that's why it's this high on this list. The Life Aquatic, supposedly one of the worst Wes Anderson movies by critics, certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, only a so-so score on IMDb. It's an incredible film. It is so fantastic. I've only seen this one once. It's the only Wes Anderson movie that I own. I need to watch it again. I really don't have that much to say about it because it's been so long. This is one of the first ones I ever watched. And I need to watch more of his movies. I mean, I need to watch this one over and over again. I've seen all of his movies. But it's just one that makes me excited when I think about it because it's such a cool movie. Visually impeccable. Like, really just peak setting. The setting is incredible. The music is incredible. The whole thing is just vibes on top of vibes on top of vibes. It is incredible. I love it. It's so cool. On to the next one. We are in masterpiece territory as we are talking about Rushmore and the two films that rank above it. But Rushmore is a very early hit in Wes Anderson's filmography. It was a very early film by him, one of his first. It might be his second movie ever. I think it was the second movie he's ever made. And it's just a wonderful experience. I just find it really easy to get sucked into this movie and just be fully on the movie's wavelength. You know, sometimes you sit down with the movie and the movie immediately engrosses you. And it's not something you can explain with words. Like, I can't explain why this film was so immediately engrossing, but you're just locked in from the very start. A lot of influence from The Graduate. It really does kind of feel like a movie in that lane about a young man pursuing a relationship with an older woman. Great Bill Murray performance in this one. Great movie. Just watch it if you haven't. It's one of his best. Number two on this list, the second best, I think is objectively his best film, and that is, of course, The Grand Budapest Hotel. This one got a lot of Oscar buzz for good reason. It's incredible. It's extremely heartfelt. One of his most emotional films, really just being about friendship. And Bottle Rocket, I guess, is kind of about the same thing, but is conveyed so much more strongly in this one. The relationship between an apprentice and a master as well. Someone trying to learn the tricks of the trade. And it's just a wonderful film from beginning to end. It really never ceases to amaze in terms of its visual splendor. It's incredible to look at. It's just incredible in every single regard. I love this movie. I love it so much. Grand Budapest Hotel, easily number 2 on this list. And my number 1 is the Wes Anderson movie I have watched over and over and over again, a film that I love to show people, a film that means a lot to me, and that's Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think this film is incredible. It always ranks, it usually ranks very high on Wes Anderson rankings because people love this movie. It's wonderful. It's got an amazing, amazing voice cast with Edward Norton specifically. And I think it's Edward Norton. Yeah, Edward Norton. And then a really great performance by George Clooney. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, George Clooney performance, which is kind of funny because it is a voice acting performance. You don't even physically see the man. Beautiful animation. Just oozes warmth. I can't say that word. And just beauty and family, man. Family Guy, even. I'm really losing it at this point. So, yeah, that's my number 1. It's Fantastic Mr. Fox. That is my Wes Anderson ranking. I know that French Dispatch is going to be very low for some people. Asteroid City is probably pretty low for some people. Isle of Dogs is probably too high based on most of the rankings that I've seen, but that's what I have today. I'm curious how you would rank the Wes Anderson films. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great rest of your day. Unique placement, I feel like, on my list, and a film that is usually seen very low in Wes Anderson rankings is Isle of Dogs. And I don't even like dogs, but I do Isle of Dogs.